This is Dry Runes. It's the first track of the Special Cup and the main desert-themed course in Mario Kart Wii. A unique thing about the track is that it's one of the 3 tracks in the game that feature permanent changes throughout the race. The other 2 being Grumble Volcano and SNES Ghost Valley 2. On Dry Runes, there are 2 kinds of events that happen as the race progresses. One is the sand inside the temple that rises constantly. The other are these pillars that are scattered throughout the track. They collapse at specific race timings and form a trickable surface to drive over. The first ones to fall are the 3 before the temple entrance at about 15 seconds. Next are the 6 pillars at the first turn, followed by the 3 remaining ones at the lake, which fall at around the 1 minute mark. Where the sand is rather hindering for world record runs, the trickable pillars are quite useful. We can get several tricks off before entering the temple, and on lap 3, we can even cut over the off-road after the lake. And TASes can benefit even more. At the first turn of lap 3, we can trick off this pillar while going for the small sand cut. RTA runs don't go for this because they do the large shortcut on lap 3, which avoids the pillar entirely. Also, after the bridge, we can trick off both pillars instead of just one, which gives us more trick boost overall. But as time progressed, TASes here became increasingly optimized, and when Thomas worked on an updated no-glitch TAS in 2023, he stumbled upon something rather unfortunate. He had improved his work in progress TAS so much that he reached the last pillar to fall on the track too quickly. It was clear that this was a literal pace lock, as you have to wait for the pillar to fully fall before it becomes trickable. That meant any further improvements on laps 1 and 2 would effectively be nullified at that point in the race. The only way to avoid this is if you could arrive at this point about half a second earlier and drive under the falling pillar. But considering how optimized his TAS already was up to that point, saving another 500 milliseconds was absolutely impossible, particularly in a no-glitch run, right? Well, the most obvious idea one might have is to simply drive around the pillar, just like the RTA world record does. But we're using the spear, which has a much wider turning radius. For example, even with the 200 millisecond advantage, the line would just lose too much time. But what other options do we have? In 2025, Allego started a new task to see how close we can come to beating the pace lock with even higher optimization standards. He figured that there was around 3 frames of definite time save to be implemented, while still getting the pillar trick. However, since there weren't any other significant strats to be implemented, it was hard to even reach more than a few frames of time save. Ultimately, he just ended up saving the estimated 3 frames up to the pillar and went on to optimize lap 3 along with others. But here, something interesting happened. At the temple exit, I found that landing on the edge of the second boost ramp allows for a much faster trick. Together with Allego, Foss, Aoiro, Jack and Ego, we optimized it and found the strat to save almost a tenth of a second. If we were to implement this on lap 1 and 2, we could take a big step towards beating the pace lock. However, since the momentum we have coming out of the temple mostly relies on the bat cycles, it's unsure how much time we could actually save. Nevertheless, even under optimal conditions, we would still need to shave off around 200 milliseconds elsewhere. And for this, our only chance is to make one strategy work, which is perhaps the most infamous strat idea in the entire TASing scene of the game. But the idea behind it goes back a long way. In February 2012, Black released a video of a TAS on Dry Runes that beat the previous best time by almost 1 second. But something was off. Not only did he seemingly splice the video at the start of lap 3, but some of the lines he took were also questionable, to say the least. Here, for example, Black clearly enters the off-road, but doesn't seem to receive any slowdown. It became obvious that his run uses cheats to disable all slowdown from off-road sections. This enabled him to implement a never-before-seen strategy on laps 1 and 3, a lake cut, without any mushrooms. The way he performs it in his run is impossible, since you would always touch some part of the off-road that will slow you down without a mushroom. At that point, the meme was born to make this strat viable legitimately, and people tried a lot. The earliest surviving footage was from a tasser named Mark, who posted a decent attempt. He managed to get a precise bounce over the off-road while keeping his wheelie, but the amount of height this gives is much lower, since the airtime begins further back. There was another method though. Tassers can make use of rapid-fire hops to get the bike stuck into the ground. A side effect of this is that you are able to get a big ejection after leaving this state. EJ showed an attempt where he used the bullet bike instead of spear, which is known to get high ejections. This time he opted for a much tighter approach, which cuts off less but doesn't require as much distance to clear the gap. However, you can already see why this approach is problematic. The scenery here doesn't leave much space to go through. Ideally, we want to come from as far left as possible, since the slope of the ground here is beneficial for ejections. Therefore, this practically becomes a trade-off between the approach angle and the resulting height of the ejection. A while later, a Lego got a solid attempt with the right side approach that came much closer to the bridge than Mark's attempt. But landing on the bridge was just too much of a stretch. Soon after, I also gave this a try and managed to get a cut that barely avoids the boulder in the tree on the way down. But even so, we still fall short. If that attempt landed, we would save about 10 frames of time, which, along with the last ramp strat, would almost be enough to beat the pillar. And if you remember from Black's run, we could also do this on lap 3. But wait a moment, on lap 3, this pillar will already have fallen, so maybe we can use it to our advantage. The trick boost we can get from it might just be enough to make the cut work. After trying for a bit, I could quickly get high ejections, so I reached out to Lego to ask for his help. He improved the attempt significantly, but was still about half a bike width short of making it. I then redid the attempt and got this. It was about to happen. Lego improved the ejection a bit further, and 2 hours later, we finally did it. After 14 years, the shroomless lake cut was real, and it saves more time than expected. Over 250 milliseconds. This is how it looks from the perspective of the current BKT. Unreal. Unfortunately, without the added speed from the trick boost, the shortcut appears to be impossible without the fallen pillar. Maybe it's a strat that will only ever work on lap 3. But that conclusion didn't sit well with Lego, so he gave it another shot. And just 2 days after we found the cut on lap 3, he sent me this. Lego managed to clear the gap by clipping the tree to reduce his falling speed. This wasn't faster than the current BKT though, since he touches the off-road at the landing, which slows him down heavily. But what a huge step! If we were to get some extra height at the ejection, we might just be able to land further ahead without slowdown. So Lego got to work, and did exactly that. More height at the ejection. And after redoing the driving at the beginning, he finally got it. A new shroomless lake cut on lap 1 that saves several frames over the BKT. This game honestly never fails to impress. And with that, we have collected all the necessary pieces of time save to conquer the pillar and beat the pace lock on dry runes. What that task will look like is a tale for the future, but I'm sure the tassing community will spare no effort to give the track the run it deserves. Thank you for watching. As always, you can find the credits for this video in the description. A huge shout out to Lego, without whom this would not have been possible. Be on the lookout for a new Dry Runes task, and see you for the next video.